Folks, our final speaker for this afternoon is the marketing director of a very successful company. You've heard about it previously. It's called Yuppiechef. It's an online retailer of premium kitchen tools. He has a Bachelor of Business Science from UCT. He project managed the launch of 20 over cricket in South Africa. He won a South African Music Award for Best Album Design, and the Mail and Guardian listed him as one of the top 200 young South Africans to take to lunch. And he was recently a finalist in the Ernst & Young World Entrepreneur Awards. He's passionate about customer services, user experience and design, and all things web. And just to let you know how his illustrious career all began, according to my research. His first job was packing sherbet into little paper pockets for his older brother when he was 6 years old at junior school. He became an overnight tycoon, making a grand total of R6.50. The rest, as they say, is history. Please, a big round of applause for Paul Galatis.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Anna. Thank you very much. Nice to be here, folks, and thanks for still being here in the graveyard session. All right, so today I'm going to talk to you about how customer service will change the world. Marina touched on a couple of points earlier about our approach to social media, so some of the things we talk about will overlap, which I hope is a good thing. And from the show of hands earlier, it didn't sound like many of you have shopped with us, so straight after this talk, pull out your iPads, pull out your iPhones, go and check us out. But a little bit of background, we are based in Cape Town. We started by selling the world's best kitchen tools. We now sell a broad range of food and home items, all focused around the kitchen. We started by selling one brand and 30 products, and so today sell over 8,000 products from 200 different brands. We are 7.5 years old. In August, we'll be 8 years old. I'm one of 3 partners, and as Marina mentioned, we were a team of 7 in January 2011, and today we are a team of just over 80. So here are some of the little images of our business. I'm going to talk to you about 4 things today. We'll start by philosophizing a little bit about changing marketplaces and why we see and why we orientate our entire business around an obsession with customer service, which is clearly something everyone is interested in and believes in. Otherwise, I don't imagine you'd be here. We'll talk about the dark ages of customer service, and I'll tell you some stories about how we are delivering great service before we close off. All right, so to begin, this is an image of what I guess we can all assume was your typical pre-20th century marketplace, right? It was a square in the middle of a town, and on that square, you had all your best friends and all your best enemies, and people in this environment succeeded or failed in a business context based on a couple of things. One, the quality of their product, right? But 2, also the relationships they built in this community of people who they knew, right? And everyone came to this market square every single day to shop because that town had only this marketplace. There were no cars, there was no ability for people to move particularly easily, and so this was the only choice you had. And you went to this market, and if you went up to Rob the baker, and Rob had was producing bread, and you bought your bread and it was terrible bread, you'd turn around to the 4 people standing in the queue next to you and you'd say, "This bread is terrible, don't buy it from him." And the 4 people waiting in the queue would just not buy from Rob, right? Or if you've got Jack the Butcher, and Jack the Butcher ends up being particularly rude to Mrs. Jones at the weekend tennis match, and Mrs. Jones then tells her 5 friends at Monday dinner that Jack the Butcher was rude to her at tennis at the weekend, then on Monday morning, her friends will choose not to shop with Jack the Butcher. And they'll probably tell a few of their other friends, and people will start to move away, and he'll feel the heat of what that community is saying. Now, what will also happen in this context is if Jack the Butcher, or let's say you've got Sarah who sells her tomatoes, let's say she sells rotten tomatoes on a certain day and people start avoiding her stall because they feel that she's ripping them off or she's being rude, and the following day she arrives with this new cart with a big, shiny, gold-trimmed facade saying, Sally's new amazing big tomatoes, right? Everyone who's standing on the square just says, hang on, that's Sarah standing behind that cart. Right? There's no Sally. I'm not going to get duped by some pretty facade, right? It's Sarah back there doing the same thing she did last week, and her produce is going to be as rubbish as it was last week, so we're not going to be fooled. So those were our old environments, very close, very connected communities. Fast forward into the 20th century, and these are the shopping centers that we shop in, right? We have products lining the aisles, branded to the nth degree with screaming colors and logos and inspirational things and all sorts of things to try and engage and grab our attention. What also happened at the beginning of the 20th century was that the car was democratized, and so people had more and more access to move. You had the advent of a number of mainstream media channels. Large-scale print had just begun. Radio was coming a decade or two later. Television a few decades thereafter. And these incredible channels for businesses with big budgets to create these wonderful campaigns to communicate with consumers, to dictate to consumers what they believed they should feel when engaging with their product. And because we had all moved away from each other, and we're no longer actually talking to each other on the market square, the only means we had to judge or even to get any feedback on what we should think about these products was through the advertising that we heard and saw from companies. Now, there's a book called the Clue Train Manifesto. Has anyone here ever heard of it? Clue Train Manifesto? 1, 2 people, 3 people? It's worth going and having a read. It's a 99-point manifesto written in the late 90s by a group of American web geeks who, when the internet was becoming what they saw it becoming, they believed, or they foresaw the profound impact that it was going to have on business and the need for business to become more real. And one of the central quotes from that manifesto is this, which says, a powerful global conversation has begun. Through the internet, people are discovering and inventing new ways to share relevant knowledge with blinding speed. As a direct result, markets are getting smarter, and they're getting smarter faster than most companies. Right? In the old days, you could be BP and you could commission an ad agency to spend 6 months launching a brand new campaign about how wonderful and amazing you are and how great happy your employees are, etc. And they could spend $500 million running that as an international campaign, and everyone has this warm and fuzzy feeling about BP. Post-99, you have one tragic event that is a massive oil spill, and BP responds badly to it, and all of a sudden, the entire world is forming their own opinions through the conversations that they're having with one another. And what I think this century of what I'll get onto in a second, which is the dark ages of customer service, has let companies get away with, is the idea of actually being pretty awful companies, right? But having such clout and such deep pockets that they can market to the world and they can project these images of what you should feel like when you deal with us without actually being authentic on the inside. And the idea of, what did I read the other day? It's an old quote which says, the best way to, telling the truth is always the best option because it means you don't have to remember anything, right? And this idea of just being honest as a business is something that I believe for 100 years we've actually been able to get away without needing to live up to. And I think that's changing. So let's talk about the dark ages of customer service. 1869. Does anyone have any idea as to what might have happened in 1869 that would have started the dark ages of customer service? Wild guesses, sorry? Anyone? Okay, let me put you out of your misery. In 1847, a magazine in France called Le Monde they were laying out their information, their articles, and at that time, magazines and publications sold purely for their cover price, right? So you make a magazine, you think, we've got a good idea, let's write a magazine about economics. People will buy it. And you put a cover price on it, and they wrote articles, and they sold the magazine for the cover price. In 1847, a group of guys were laying out Le Monde, and the article didn't quite fit the page. They said, well, we've got this big gap here. Let's do something about it. So they called the local butcher, and they said, Jack, we hear you've had some kind of bad press at the tennis club. Why don't you create a little ad that we can put in here telling the community that buys this publication what you are all about? So Jack said to his wife, honey, why don't you tell them what meat we're selling and we'll put the ad into the magazine. And so the idea of modern print advertising was born. And it took 22 years until 1869 when a group of people sat around and said, hang on a second, we can tell stories way better than what Jack's wife can tell stories. So why don't we start the first modern advertising agency, right? To let businesses do what they do and come to us and get us to tell the world stories about what they do, right? And so 1869 was the date of the first creation of the first advertising agency as we know it today, designed to perfect this idea of one-to-many communication. And it was starting to happen because print media was taking off, as I say, radio next, TV next, and so there's this great opportunity to spin these stories. 2004, the advent of Facebook, right? The Clue Train Manifesto guides would probably argue a few years earlier the advent of the internet, but a tool and a medium designed to allow many-to-many communication as opposed to the incredible opportunity that businesses had for 100 years of one-to-many, which advertising clearly made great use of. And here's some two stories I have from the dark ages, which I quite enjoy. I was buying tickets to the Luries a while back, and I needed to do it over the telephone because I needed a VAT invoice. And when the woman answered, and I said, hi, I need to buy tickets to the Luries, and she said, well, sir, it is 5 to 5. It might be better if you phone back tomorrow because we close at 5. So I said, okay, well, I'm imagining that the transaction will only take a few minutes, and if it does run over 5 o'clock, I'm guessing that 5:02 or 5:03 is not the end of the world. And she said, okay, so let's see how we go. Went through the transaction, I had to give her my company registration number, and at 5 o'clock on the dot, she said, sir, I'm really sorry, it's 5 o'clock. Please could you call back tomorrow? Thank you, goodbye. And she hung up, right? And I was sitting there absolutely flabbergasted. And I don't have a massive Twitter soapbox. I don't say very much on it. But that evening I went online and I wrote this tweet. And it was retweeted by a few people, including Ruben Goldberg up here in Joburg, one of the newspaper editors. And the following day I received this email, which said, hi there, please can you put me in touch with Mr. Paul Galatis? This is in response to his tweet regarding CompuTicket. Kindly send me his contact details so that we, on behalf of CompuTicket, can resolve his bad service experience. Kind regards, Celine, Imedia. And I got this, and I was like, this is really interesting. Like, why am I being communicated with by a company called Imedia for a bugger up that was CompuTickets? Right? And the vision I have in my mind is of this overweight, blundering fool in a kind of spoilt, alcohol-spilled tuxedo with his top hat skew on his head, blundering through the marketplace, kind of tipping people's trays over and turning their carts over and being rude to everyone, and some meek and mild person coming behind with a dustpan and a tray and saying, you know, he's not that bad. I'm really sorry. Can I pay for the dry cleaning for your jacket? And while the blundering fool just carries on walking off into the distance. And I think that the whole social media thing, the whole customer service thing, the whole idea that, you know, we're a business, this is what we do, and we're just going to carry on doing it. And what people are talking about on social media channels or what the customer actually experiences, let's just hire some other people to sort that out because it's got nothing to do with us, right? I think that is very fast becoming a thing of the past. And I guess that is why we're in this room today, because events like this and an obsession on customer centricity, which is, it's even quite a strange concept in itself. The fact that we start businesses and then 1, 5, 10, 50, 100 years later, we're talking about making these businesses customer-centric is a crazy idea. Like we started these businesses because there were customers out there to serve. So anyway, that was one of them. Here's my other great story. This was a company called Easy Life Group, and I was asked to meet the founder of this business. He had actually started a mail order business in the UK in 1988. And he went to China and he'd seen a whole bunch of exciting things, the most exciting of which was one of those ab cruncher things, you know, the electrodes you put on your stomach. And he thought this is going to be a massive hit. And he bought 5,000 units and he went back to London and he printed 300,000 magazine, postbox dropping type mail order catalogs for this product. And before he knew it, people were ordering them up by the thousands. And so for 20 years, he ran a very successful mail order business. And mail order never really became a particularly big thing in South Africa, but I imagine we're all relatively familiar with the concept. You receive the magazine, you're in your house, you're in the quiet of your own home, you page through it, you see the products you like. In the back, there's a form, you fill in your details, you think, I would like that one, I don't like that one, and all you know is the information that the magazine's telling you that it contains, and you write a check, and you put a check in the post, and you send it off. And you hope that a week later the check gets there, and you hope that a week after that the company turns your order around, and then you're expecting something back. Hopefully the item you ordered. If these guys were out of stock, or what would often happen is he'd buy 5,000 units from China, send out 300,000 brochures, and get 20,000 orders, right? And so he'd either just send the customer a replacement, an alternative product, and say, if you don't like it, you're welcome to send it back to us, or he'd just send them their check back and say, I'm sorry, we ran out of stock, here's your check, I'm sorry it's 3 weeks later, but there's been massive demand, etc. The reality of that situation was one that people ordering from him were ordering in almost total isolation, sitting in their houses on their own, making that decision on their own. Secondly, they were writing a check, so they weren't giving the guy money until he actually banked the check. So he wasn't taking their money and then not fulfilling. He was just not taking their money, but it took them 3 weeks to put the check back in the post. And in 2008, he decided to go online. And they had a torrid time. And so it was a year or two after that I was asked to have a coffee with him. He was in Cape Town for a few days. And before I met with him, I did just a search on the site. So I just Googled Easy Life Group, and this is what I saw, some results. And then at the bottom, I started seeing their reviews, 22 reviews, dark ages, arrogant incompetence, 1 star. That was a bit scary. And they were below, there were a couple of others. So I went into this, and this is what I saw. Complaint without charge, asked for owner Greg Kaplan. Update of order part received, no info on remaining item. Greg Kaplan was the guy I was meeting for coffee, actually. Charged for goods cancelled on 12th of December. Total lack of concern about appalling lack of service, appalling service, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, okay, maybe I've hit a hotbed of anger. We're all familiar with Hello Peter, and we see this kind of stuff on Hello Peter. What is interesting to me on this slide, though, was, I don't know if my pointer works here, these little -5 faces, and then the number of people who've seen these. So this has been seen by 193 people, 315, 514, 618, 676 views, people who have read those specific complaints. So I thought it might have been a hotbed. I went to another site and found a whole bunch of other complaints. My favorite was this one, which is pretty much a thesis about what had gone wrong. Right? Dire customer service, payment taken, goods undelivered. Right? And what had actually happened was that as they moved from a print environment and their traditional business environment to an online environment where there is such an immediate need for response from customers, and add to the fact that they now swipe their credit card or give their credit card details to you, and you take their money. Right? And once you've taken someone's money, nothing makes them more angry than you not giving them what they've paid you for. And their processes, their systems were not set up to serve people in this way. And they took an absolute lambasting. And while they were trying to put out fires, they're trying to improve their systems, but it really just kind of spiraled and spiraled. And in this whole experience, one of the things that struck me, and I know it's been spoken about a number of times today, is this idea that for the first time in history, word of mouth is archivable. Right? For decades, we've been saying word of mouth is the most powerful marketing thing, and whether people are speaking positively or negatively, it's all great. But when we spoke about word of mouth, historically, we've always meant that it's you going to a store and having a great experience, and then going to dinner and telling your 4 friends in Cape Town what a great experience you had at that store, and everyone spoke about how awesome that was as a marketing tool. Right? Word of mouth today takes on a totally different meaning in our newly connected space. And this is top of the list for me for an example from the dark ages. So, hi Marina, who you all met this afternoon. My name is Judy Ram, and I have a wonderful story about Yuppiechef to share with you. Yesterday I was meeting with Philip Austin, one of the owners of the Moyo restaurants. Philip told me how he was really impressed with your company. As it goes, he had recently ordered a pan that arrived with a broken handle. Philip wrote to complain, and Yuppiechef promptly sent him a replacement pan. This made such a positive impression that Philip was now telling everyone about the amazing customer service at Yuppiechef. Kind regards, well done, Judy Ram. Right? And Judy was one of our early fans, and she just wanted to send this to us as a bit of a kind of boost. And we celebrate, as Marina said, one of the things we celebrate the most in our business is positive customer feedback. And this is the perfect thing that we get, and we feel good about, and we share with everyone. And when I was putting this talk together, I pulled this out. And the reason I pulled it out is because you read this, and then you read it again, and you ask yourself, what the hell is going on? Right? Here's a guy who's ordered a pan from us. He paid top dollar for a top quality pan. It arrived with a broken handle. He phoned us to tell us that it arrived with a broken handle. We apologized and sent him a pan, which he now received 48 hours later than he should have received the first one. Right? And he's telling everyone how amazing we are. Right? He's raving about the amazing customer experience at Yuppiechef. Right? The truth is this. Right? We're working off an incredibly low base of customer expectations. So we do less than it says on the can, and people rave about how amazing we are. Right? We don't have to go to any great lengths because we all know that feeling. You buy something at a shop and something goes wrong, and now you're going to take it back, and you get the knot in your stomach, or you think, oh, they're not going to believe me. They're going to tell me that it broke after I took it out of the shop, or they're going to tell me that it was my fault, or they're going to tell me, sorry, we'll take it back from you, but we'll gladly give you a voucher. And you say, I actually don't want a voucher. I'd like cash, please, because I paid you in cash. And they say, oh, no, sorry, our policy is that we can only give you a voucher back. And you say, really? You're going to corner me into buying something in your store because I gave you money yesterday, right? It's the most inhumane and respect-earning activity that you could, I could imagine one could do as a business. Shane, my partner, told a story once about going to a bedding store and he's looking for side tables, and a woman helped him, and he chose those two side tables for his bedroom. And they got to the front, and he pulled out his credit card to pay, and the credit card didn't go through. He's like, oh, that's strange. Maybe it didn't top up his credit card. Pulled out another credit card, didn't go through either. He said, oh, damn it, okay. A little bit embarrassing. I'm really sorry. I'll pay you by EFT. And she said, no problem. Here are our bank details. And as she passed the bank details, she pushed the two bedside tables, which are now on the counter, across the counter towards him. And he said, well, I'll make the payment, and I'll send it through to you, and then I'll come and fetch them tomorrow. And she said to me, don't worry about coming back tomorrow. I've spent 15 minutes with you on the floor. I trust you. Just take them and do the EFT and send me the confirmation. And he came into the office later that day, and he just said, you know how incredible it was to be trusted by a business. He said, I was blown away, and I was almost more horrified by my own response that I felt so amazed being trusted, because we're so used to being untrusted by businesses. So that's a little bit of background into the dark ages. A couple of stories of how we are delivering great service, and I'm going to touch on 5 things: gratitude, culture, remarkability, care, and community. Right? So Marina told you earlier that we write cards with every order. So we celebrated and thanked our first real customer in 2006 with a handwritten card, and have done the same for every customer ever since. So Andrew and Shane, my partner, started the business, and when they set it up, as I said, 1 brand, 30 products, announced to their family that the site was live, and like, go for it, please come and shop and tell your friends. And they sat there twiddling their thumbs for a few weeks before the first purchase came through, and Shane was like, oh it's my dad. Like, awesome, great. And the next person to buy was Andrew's aunt, and then it was Andrew's mom. And the 7th person to buy from us, which was probably 6 weeks after the first sale, Andrew received the order. It was a woman called Denise Gunner. And he's like, oh, it's no one from my family. It must be someone from your family. Shane looked at him, he's like, no one from my family. And he said, what do you mean? It's a real stranger. And there were high fives and celebrations and crack the champagne, and just this total amazement that a real stranger had found our website, chosen to give us money, and then closed their eyes and hoped the stuff would arrive. It was an incredible indication of trust. And so Shane said he couldn't just put the product into a box and send it off to her. He had to write to her to say thank you. So he wrote a note and said, dear Denise, thank you so much for shopping from us. Enjoy your new grater. Let us know if you need anything else. Cheers, Shane and the Yuppiechef team, which was Shane and Andrew sitting in their very quiet lounge in Plumstead, hoping for the next order. And you can see behind this image here is a wall, which if you come to our office, if any of you are ever in Cape Town, let me know. We regularly do office tours. That wall has got the names of the first 200 customers who ever shopped with us frosted on this glass panel in front of our customer service area. It took us a year to get 200 customers. Okay, so Yuppiechef, the 8-year overnight success. It was a slow start. But Denise shopped, and it was a good couple of weeks later before the next person shopped. So Shane had more than enough time to handwrite the next card, right? And so he handwrote the next card, and then he handwrote the card after that. And soon enough, we started getting this amazing feedback. Well, for us, it was amazing feedback. It was probably an email a month from customers just saying, amazing, thanks for the delivery, it was so great, and we loved the handwritten card, right? And this idea of communicating gratitude to customers has become this deeply entrenched thing in our business. So when you start working for us, whether you are joining as our FD, whether you're joining as a warehouse worker, whether you're joining as a techie, you go on a 2.5-day onboarding process at Yuppiechef, and the first hour of your first day is spent writing cards. And you understand why we write cards. There is no script. You get shown a bunch of other examples, but you write whatever you like. To simply say thank you, potentially brighten someone's day, whatever you want it to be. You may reference what they ordered from us previously because we've built technology around it. And once you've done your hour of writing cards, you get a badge like that which says, I write cards for Yuppiechef, right? During our really busy seasons, we will say to everybody in the business, please kind of stop work for 10 minutes, and if everyone can just write 10 cards, you will take the pressure off our customer service team who write our cards. We have a customer service team, they all write if they've been dealing with a specific customer, and if there's been a bit of back and forth, they will likely claim that card, and they will write it themselves. We have 3 full-time card writers over December. We had 9 full-time card writers for 2 months. It's something we take pretty seriously. In 2008, I was living in London, and I said to Andrew and Shane, you've got to come over to London. We're going to spend a week visiting the wisest people we can find to glean a bit of wisdom. And this is touching on the story that Marina told earlier. And we went and saw Tony Treyer, who used to be the CEO of Anglo American. And I was at university with his daughter, so we become friends. And we were not going to see Tony for digital advice. I can assure you of that. We'd been to his house for lunch once before where he was reading an email, and his wife was kneeling on the floor with her hand on the mouse. And when he got to the bottom of the page, he said to her, down, down, and she clicked to scroll the email, right? Tony managed Anglo until 2006 without a computer on his desk. Okay, so he's a smart man, but we weren't going to him for tech advice. And we told him about the business and what we were doing, and we told him about the handwritten cards, and he said to us, it's going to be a really sad day when you grow so big that you can't keep writing a card with every order. And Andrew said to him, he said, what are you talking about? He said, well, you'll get too big where it's no longer feasible, it's no longer viable, it's no longer economical to keep handwriting cards. And that, without question, was the moment in our history when the gauntlet was laid down. And Andrew said to me, he said, we'll never stop writing cards. He said, we will employ teams of grannies if we need to handwrite our cards. But it's our way to show gratitude. It's our way to show a human face to consumers, to something that is traditionally, or not traditionally, that is assumed to be a very digital, cold, and impersonal experience. And every now and then people, this is on our Mini, we've got a branded Mini, every now and then people come along and write us cards and leave them under our windscreens. Okay, so culture was the second point. In this whole evolution of marketplaces and brands and advertising and amazing media channels where you can reach 1 million people with one beautiful car advert, what I think is changing more rapidly, what the change in marketplace is having the greatest effect on, is that as companies we can no longer pretend to be like our advertising projects us to be. Right? There are too many touch points between customers, their buddies, and all of the experiences that their friends have, and with the company itself. In the old days, you could not communicate with companies. There are now, as the previous speakers have spoken about, multiple channels to get through to get to those companies. And if a company claims to be a certain way, right, then you will very quickly find out through just a couple of interactions, right, that they are not that way. I can't begin to describe to you, where's the Standard Bank guy? Is he here? Is he still around? Is he gone? Oh, damn. Well, I can't tell you how excited I am about the app. But that being said, I need a lot of evidence over the next few years, and I say this with respect, I don't mean to have a go at Standard Bank, but I need to see a lot of evidence over the next few years to even have a vague inkling of confidence in the fact that Standard Bank is embracing a digital revolution. The guys in their bank are now wearing big badges saying, would you recommend us to your family and friends? If not, can you tell me why? That's what their badge says. And I was in the bank last week, and I said to one of the guys, I said, can I tell you why I've switched and why I'm here closing my accounts? Because I was one of the guys who switched. And I said, you launched your online banking interface in 1999, and in, what does that make it? We're 2014, 15 years, nothing has changed. Not one thing. I mean, just change the interface to give us a perception that you're kind of on the digital bandwagon, right? The app looks amazing, and if it does what the video says, that's awesome. But there's going to need to be more evidence to show that they're truly embracing that way of engaging. So what we believe around the whole brand thing is that brand in the way we've known it for the last 100 years will quickly become a thing of the past. And culture will be what we actually talk about and what we actually need to influence as business leaders in this space in order to have a tangible impact on how people feel about our businesses. We've said our culture is the most authentic and stable brand experience that we can create. So here's a little online chat. It says, hi, do you deliver to Namibia? If so, what are the terms and conditions? And Mike, who used to work with us, said, hi there, unfortunately not, but if you come to the border, stretch out your hands and wave, we can meet you there and throw it across. Okay? Now, this is unlikely to come out of most call centers, right, in business. But we totally embrace this kind of thing, and for a very simple reason. We go to great lengths to recruit great people. And once we've recruited them into the business, we recruit them because we believe they share our similar values, we believe they're smart enough, we believe they kind of get what we're trying to do here. And once they're in, just be a human being, right? Be a normal human being. You don't have to toe the corporate line, you don't have to read the script, you can just do what it is that you do, and that's why we hired you in the first place. So that's why I put it. We do, by the way, deliver to Namibia now, so you don't have to meet us at the border. Here's another image, which is, so we're kitchen obsessed. We're kitchen and food obsessed. That's what we do. And I guess our biggest reason for existence is to try and inspire people to cook and to gather around tables, cook for their family, cook for their friends, and sit down and make food together. Right? We think it's a good thing for all of us. And we have a test kitchen in our business. We actually now have 3 test kitchens, and it's where our whole business meets for breakfast on a monthly basis, where everyone eats lunch on a daily basis, and where we now started having, including more and more food products on the site. This is just an image of our staff reviewing and testing products before we put them live on the site. Again, the kind of material that we'd share through all our channels. And as a team, you know, we don't have a warehouse in our Sando. Our entire warehouse operation business team is all under one roof in Westlake. You make lunch, you can come in, you can play with all the toys. Our customer service team have an opportunity to engage with all of the brand's products. And so when they speak to people, they have a tangible understanding of what they're talking about, and there is an internal cultural focus on food, which is what we, I guess, at the same time, are trying to encourage other people to embrace. This is an image from one of our monthly breakfasts. We all meet and have a chat and have a bit of a catch-up. And a lot of it is about inspiring people to embrace what we're doing, embrace an obsession around service, embrace an obsession around food, and a passion around it. And I took the MD of Saatchi Cape Town around our office a few months ago, and after the tour, he wrote me this in an email to say thank you, where he said, I get the feeling that no one in your building works for Yuppiechef. They are Yuppiechef, which was a great thing to hear, and I think speaks exactly to this idea of culture being brand. It's not this facade that on the inside we have different people slaving away. Okay, so that's culture and brand. The next point I want to talk about is remarkability. We've prioritized doing great things over telling people that we do great things and leave the remarking to them. The word remarkability, it was pointed out to me a few months ago, that it means that people remark. It means that they talk about what they experience. So if you're a remarkable business, it means that people will engage with you, and then they will talk about what they engaged with. And there are a couple of things that we've done. We deliver free anywhere in South Africa. That little point over there, that A, is Kuruman. We've delivered a 60 Rand spatula to Kuruman before. It cost us 300 Rand to get it there. Right? No, we don't build delivery cost into our price. right? We see it as a marketing expense. We see it as a necessary investment on our part to nudge South Africans off the edge of the digital precipice and get them shopping online and experiment. We also know that the woman who lives in Kuruman has got friends who live everywhere in the country. And yes, she's bought a spatula today, but we kind of sit and pray every day that next time she'll buy something more expensive from us, right? But she probably needs that spatula to arrive to be pretty sure that it's actually going to happen. So for her, this is quite a remarkable experience, right? And it's worth her talking about. And the amazing thing is that it doesn't matter who she speaks to, whether it's her daughter-in-law who lives in Joburg or her friend who lives in Cape Town or wherever, every single one of them can pull their phones out of their pocket and can shop with us if they choose to, if they've been impressed or encouraged enough by the stories that they've heard. One of my other favorite thoughts around remarkability, about a year and a bit ago, we were sitting around debating whether we should spend 35,000 Rand on a full-page magazine ad in Taste magazine, right? And Taste goes to however many, 55,000 people. And after a long back and forth, and for years we've argued about whether print advertising is effective and valuable in an online space, and we can't track it, and is it throwing money down the drain? And after a fairly lengthy debate, we said, hang on a second, why don't we give 35,000 Rand a month to our customer service team, right? We call it a customer delight budget. We give them very loose parameters, and we say, why don't you guys, on average, you have the leeway to spend 350 Rand on roughly 100 customers, right, every single month, just doing whatever you want to do to blow them away, right? And that goes over and above, I guess, our standard customer service approaches. You know, you order something from us, you order a measuring jug, and it arrives broken. We're terribly sorry, there's a brand new one on the way to you, right? If you order 6 glasses and one arrives broken, we're really sorry. They come in a pack of 6, there's a brand new set of 6 coming to you. We'll likely throw something in, we'll likely throw in a voucher to apologize for the substandard experience. But these opportunities where people phone in and say, you know, I've got a mixer, it's 3 weeks out of warranty and it's just broken. Don't worry, ma'am, there's a new mixer on its way to you, right? If we can create 50 experiences with customers that are truly remarkable, right? I promise you that of the 55,000 people that pick up Taste magazine, if there are 5,000 people who page through every page of that magazine, right, I'd be impressed. And if of those 5,000, there are 500 who page past the page that our ad's on, and of the 500, if there are 50 who stop and read our ad, I'd be impressed. Right? Let alone read our ad, think, wow, that's great, get onto the website, check it out, go and shop. It doesn't happen. Right? But the opportunity to spend money on a way that creates what is a truly remarkable experience, and not in a gimmicky kind of way. It's not let's do this for 1 month, get a whole lot of chatter out there, and then we'll just go back to our previous mediocre ways. Right? This is a monthly budget. The budget expands over time as our customer base expands over time because we have more people to look after. And so this idea of doing something remarkable is something that's been very interesting to us, where we think about the way we spend our money, because we have a lot of people that we are able to engage with in an exciting way who they themselves are able to spread the word. This is how our packages arrive. The designs change every now and then, but this is was one of our cards last year. These are the 2 fridge magnets that go out and a piece of pretty packing/wrapping paper that goes over the product. So when you unwrap this box, it's a pretty exciting experience. If you buy a knife from us, how many of you know the superstition that you shouldn't give a knife without giving a coin? Does anyone know the superstition? Okay, so there is such a superstition. If you buy a knife from us, you'll get a little card like this with a 1 Rand coin on, and it says, there's some crazy looking old folk once told us that sharp gifts can slice friendships to smithereens unless the lucky coin is given with a gift. We like lasting friendships, so we figured we'd throw this in just in case the old folk aren't as crazy as they looked. All right? So little things like that make the experience remarkable are what we like to do. This is Hello Peter. This page is a bit outdated. We've actually stopped redirecting people to Hello Peter, only because they chose to charge exorbitant fees. And so this was our Hello Peter page probably about 6 months ago. 384 compliments and 5 complaints. I think Hello Peter itself has got more complaints than compliments on Hello Peter, right? Which I don't quite understand how that happens, but it is the case. And I don't put this up here so much to brag about it, but our very strong opinion on this is that people go to these channels when they are not heard by the company. right? We grow our customer service team, and we obsess about a couple of basic metrics. One, emails. About between 85 and 90% of all of our emails that people send, or all emails sent to us, are responded to within 3 hours. If you phone Yuppiechef, a human being will answer. We have fought, like we fight the handwriting thing, we fought the call center. Please press 1 for marketing. Please press 2 for etc. So a human being will answer the phone. And people ask us, are those things, like, surely it's too expensive. Surely it's too expensive to invest in that kind of team or that kind of approach. And there's no answer to that question. We can't tell you whether it's too expensive or not too expensive. But what we can see is we can see results like this, and we can see, I guess, the loyalty that we have in the market. We see people making dedicated Pinterest pages to putting their photographs of their pets in packaging. We see this incredible loyalty that comes from a human connection and a focus on doing remarkable things. And our take right now is that it certainly is worth it. Okay, the next point is care. We go to great lengths to hire people who care. And we celebrate positive customer feedback above all else and share it daily with our team. So this idea of care, I think there are a lot of people out there in the world looking for work, right? And there are people out there who are looking for work through which they can make the most money possible. There are people who are out there looking for work who want to do as little as possible in their jobs and then go home to their wonderful families and kids. And there are people out there in the world who want to do work that they genuinely care about and that they feel makes some kind of positive contribution to the people they're dealing with, the people they're working with. And we go to quite extensive lengths to find those people and hire those type of people into our business. This image is not staff having lunch again, but this is actually a group interview. So one of the really interesting things we do is that if we are hiring for, say, 7 or 8 positions, and we end up getting, we'll get, I guess, 100 or 200 applications in, and we'll whittle that list down probably to about 20 people. And we'll then invite all 20 people into the office, into our test kitchen, and we will have what we call a group interview. And people are usually a little bit freaked out by that because they think they're coming for a one-on-one interview. And they get put into the kitchen, and they get given a task to do. In this case, the team had to prepare a recipe together, and they had to do it in pairs. Another example that we use is particularly random. You are on a spaceship, and then you've gone to the space station to repair something up there. And while you're there, it's you and 15 people. And while you're there, Earth gets obliterated, and everyone on it has died. And you now need to choose, of your 15, only 8, because there's only space in the space shuttle for 8 to go back. You need to choose 8 of the 15 to return to Earth to populate Earth, right? And you have a list of the 15 people of the space station, and you now need to choose. So you sit by yourself, and you make a list of the top 8 you would take, and then you sit and you collaborate and make a group listing of the top 8 you would take. This exercise I find fascinating. It's not a great tool for selecting people into the business. It's a wonderful tool for filtering people out of the business. Right? You see very quickly who is the person at the table who hasn't got the time to listen to anyone else around the table. Right? Who's the person who listens and makes insightful but possibly quiet contributions, right? Who looks like a good collaborator? Who looks like the kind of person who I'd like to sit next to for 8 hours a day for the next 5 years of my life, right? And those kind of people get through to the next phase, which will then pull them in for one-on-one interviews, right? But this idea of there are people in the world who don't want to care. They don't want to care about other people. I'm sure they care about their closest friends and family, but the idea of caring for customers and the idea of caring about their work is just a totally foreign concept to them. But there are a lot of people who do, and so finding those people is something that we really enjoy looking for. And I think it also speaks a lot to ego, and people kind of always wanting to be right. There are 2 quotes which I really like, which are important in our business. One is this, which says, taking responsibility for a mistake and making an effort to resolve it doesn't mean that you are wrong and the other person is right. It just means that you value your relationship more than you do your ego. Right? And secondly is we value the customer relationship as much as we do the sale. Again, going to this changing marketplace, you have an old school scenario where someone walks past your shop, they've walked in, you have no idea where they're from. Are they from here? Are they from Cape Town? Are they from London? and they're in your shop, and they're going to be in your shop for 5 minutes, and damn, you better close that sale, because when they walk out, they're gone, right? In our context, in the modern world, particularly in our business, which is an e-commerce business, but it applies to, I think, to every single one of our businesses, people can connect and engage with us at any time. So maintaining that relationship, even if it means we're sending the woman in Kuruman a 60 Rand spatula that costs us $300, the opportunity to build a relationship with her is infinitely valuable, and is valuable to us forever. All right, and my last point is community. We look to inspire, connect, entertain, and engage our fans while always being open, honest, and human. And this is really a lot of the work that Marina does. This was quite a fun campaign a while back, which has anyone here ever heard of the Woolies Lovebirds hostage saga? No? Okay, I'll tell it as quickly as I can. So we started in 2006, and we were a group of young guys who were very tech-focused, and we always would lament, like I lamented earlier about Standard Bank, we'd lament about the big companies not getting on board with the whole tech revolution. And one day, Woolworths launched their first social media campaign, which was, there was lots of chatter around it, and it was around Valentine's Day, and it was called Woolies Lovebirds, and this was the poster that was sent out. It said, follow Woolies Lovebirds on Twitter, and you could win 50,000 Rand, and it was posted onto Twitter by someone who we followed, and my partner Shane saw it and opened it and said, that's very interesting, let's see what Woolies is doing as their first steps into the world of social media. And he typed in the web address, and it went nowhere, and he typed it in again, and it went nowhere. So he Googled it, and he found that they left the S off on all of their advertising material nationwide on this campaign. And they advertised, go to Woolies Lovebird instead of to Woolies Lovebirds, right? So Shane went and checked whether Woolies Lovebirds was available for registration, which it was. And so for $9, we registered woolieslovebirds.co.za and redirected all the traffic to Yuppiechef, right? And that was a Sunday night. It was Sunday the 31st of January. And on Sunday night, Shane phoned us and said, listen, Andrew, Shane, and I meet for breakfast every Monday. And he phoned and he said, listen, on tomorrow morning, this is what I've done. It's kind of illegal. It's the same reason why FIFA was suing everybody, because, you know, we're running this big campaign, and now you want to call your B&B the FIFA B&B. You're not allowed to do it. So we would have been in the same hot water. He said, we've got to be able to do something good with this and something positive. Sleep on it, and let's meet tomorrow. So we met in the morning, and we had just joined forces with a company, an organization called Soil for Life, who teach underprivileged people in some of the Cape Flats areas how to grow vegetables in front of their houses. And it's a great charity that gives people purpose. It helps them feed themselves. They can take their products to market. And we chose to partner with them because they're all about food, and we like that everything around food. So at breakfast, we said, great, what we'll do is we're going to ransom back this URL that we bought for $9. Let's ransom it back to Woolies for $5,000, right? And we just give the money to charity. And we thought, great, that's perfect. And we went into the office, and we told our staff, we said, this is what we've done. And they were horrified that we would do something so evil. And Mike, the Namibia Stretch Your Arms Out guy, he said to us, he said, hang on a second. Instead of just ransoming Woolies, why don't we get our community involved, right? And why don't we propose that Woolies must pay whatever our community chooses to contribute to to Soil for Life, and that way it becomes us and our community against Woolies, right? Anyway, it was a fantastic campaign. We set a limit. We had no idea what the response would be like. Our intention was never to extort Woolies. It was to get some good PR exposure for us, for Soil for Life, and to make some money for them. And so we said to Woolies, this is the challenge. We set an upper limit to $5,000. 24 hours later, they phoned us after a day of silence, because it started being highly spoken about on social media channels. And they said, look, we're very embarrassed by what's happened, but we appreciate the way you've done it, and we'll pay your ransom, and we'll add $2,500 to it. So here's 7,500 Rand to Soil for Life. Thanks very much. Maybe we have the URL back. And we said, cool, thank you. We were a bit disappointed there wasn't more of a fight, but we redirected it to them, and we put a note on our blog post mentioning what had happened. And the following day, they called us back and they said, you know, we're getting a lot of kudos for having paid the ransom. And we like the way you guys have done it, and it gives exposure for Soil for Life. So why don't you guys keep the URL, but just redirect people to the proper competition on your site? So we said, okay, that would be great. We'd love to do that. So we did it. We took the URL back. And then the campaign started to pick up momentum like crazy. And our goal was to raise 5,000 Rand in 2 weeks at 25 Rand donation intervals. And in at the end of, we started on the Monday, by the Thursday we had raised 16,500 rand. And I got a call from Jeremy Mansfield, who said, I want to speak to you tomorrow on Highveld about this, because I think it's a great story. And I phoned Woolies back and I said, look, I think it's going to go big. We've got 10 days to go. We're sitting on nearly 20,000 rand. My proposal, we go on radio tomorrow and we raise the ransom to 100 grand and get people to match, then you guys come along and pay 100 grand. And she went very silent at the end of the phone and she said, it sounds like you're threatening me. And I couldn't respond in any other way but saying, look, it is a ransom situation, right? Which didn't go down well at all. Long story short, Woolies panicked and a few hours later phoned and said, please just leave us out of the picture. We did what you asked us to do. So sadly, they didn't match any higher number, but they paid what we asked them to. We probably ran a bigger risk of looking like idiots raising the ransom. But we went on, we raised 116,000 rand over the next 2-week period for Soul for Life. We ended up winning a gold lorry for best, that's why I was buying tickets to the lorries earlier, by the way. We ended up winning a gold lorry for best viral campaign of the year. But it was a campaign which really got us started on this idea of involving our community in the kind of things that we do. And this is my last story before we wrap up. We do all of our design and development in-house, and we were putting together a campaign to try and showcase the fact that we sell all the colors of the rainbow of the KitchenAid range. And we wanted something along the lines of Dulux's Any Color You Can Think Of campaign. And we were a bit stuck, and Marina said, let me go and put this on Facebook and let's ask our community for input. So we put it up and we said, hi, we need some lines, help with lines for our upcoming KitchenAid advert. Which color? Some examples being thrown around the office are, which color floats your crouton, which color whips your cream, which color flips your pancake? Give us your best suggestions, people, we'll make you famous, right? And so there were 63 responses in about an hour, and this is what the ad looked like, and you won't be able to read it from there, but just over there is the winning line, which says, over there, which says, which color needs your dough, right? We put a little asterisk next to it, and this went into House and Leisure, so also whatever it is, 35, 40,000 copies, an asterisk, and then below our logo, the asterisk, and we said, we asked our fans on Facebook to suggest lines for this ad. Hip hip hooray to Brendan Foster, who was the wizard behind this one. He is now famous. It was all very fun. And about 2 weeks later, Marina came running into the office and she said, you'll never guess who phoned, you'll never guess who phoned. And I said, who? And she said, Brendan Foster. And I said, who the hell is Brendan Foster? And she said, he's the guy we made famous in House and Leisure ad. I was like, okay, great. And we posted it, we put it on our site, in our Facebook channels, and then Brendan came along and wrote this as his comment after the post. So, that's just the idea of having some friends. We don't believe in pushing product over social channels. We are there to entertain, connect, educate, and inspire. Cool. This was a quote I saw a while back, which I really like, which says, everyone communicates, but not everyone connects. And I think this is the difference between when you see something that connects with you versus just seeing another boring company's advert that you just can't wait for it to come and go because they're not saying anything that speaks to you. And I think that it's a very important part of the future of business. So, my closing thoughts. Great customer service requires people to genuinely care. I think that's pretty much what it boils down to. If people genuinely care, we'll be sure to always deliver great products and services, in which case the busy, bustling, reconnected marketplace will reward us by talking about us at speed. And that's it. Thanks very much, folks.
Thank you very much. That was Paul Galatis. That was fascinating, stunning, and so insightful for all of us to see the progressive and innovative ways that you've developed your company and all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Do you agree? Yeah. Yes. Do we have questions for Paul? Yes. Questions all around?
Hi, Paul. As part of your presentation, you said you resisted urge for a contact center. So I just want to understand how you route your calls, because in busy periods in December, if I'm a customer, I'm trying to get hold of you, and I cannot get hold of you because I'm getting an engaged tone, I am not going to be satisfied, and I want to know how you handle that for your customer experience.
Okay. So I guess we have pretty good management information about what kind of volumes we should be expecting at any time. It always amazes me that you can look at one period and you can see what your general growth is, and you know that this year we're 100% up on last year, and so last year we had 3,000 calls, and this year we're going to have 6,000, or we had 10,000, we're going to have 20,000. So we're pretty good at, I guess, preparing for that capacity. We also go to quite a lot of effort to get people away from phoning us, interestingly. I had the MD of Get Wine, which is another online site, come to our business a while back, and he said, they find that a lot of their customers are quite elderly and quite scared to order online. So what they do is they put their telephone number at the top of their emails, big, and encourage people to phone in. And he said, you guys should do the same. And I said, I don't for a second deny that we would get a number of people who would phone us who probably are more comfortable purchasing over the phone. But as a business, I guess we believe we're playing a role in retraining people as to how we actually want them to shop with us. And so a phone call will pretty much debilitate one of our customer service agents for anything from, I guess, 3 or 4 minutes up to 10 minutes or 15 or 20 minutes. And debilitate's maybe not the right word, but they can deal with nothing but that single customer. If they're not on a phone to a customer, they can do a hell of a lot more, and they can respond to a far greater number of inquiries. And as a customer, you probably end up, again, I think people would rather phone because they're so used to getting such bad written communication from companies and such slow responses. So technically, I can't quite answer your call, i.e. what special router do we have in our office that directs it. It's really just a matter of preparing for capacity. So that's the simple answer. Right. Yes. Sorry, I won't choose people. I'll let the people with the microphones choose people.
Thanks, great talk. I want to ask a question. It's kind of like going to an AA meeting and asking if there's still a case where you can drink alcohol and it's okay.
Yeah.
So you spend a lot of time talking about customer experience and importance, and you kind of dodged over the whole question of economics in terms of investments. I want to kind of take you back there and kind of assume that Tony Trejo is not funding your business. So at some point, the business obviously has got to wash its own face. Yeah. But just kind of a sense, because you've invested massively in terms of customer experience. Clearly, you've intimated to the fact that the business has grown. I just want to get a sense of kind of how those things stack up, because you've got a very expensive service model, but clearly it's paying dividends. So I just want to get, if you can go back there.
So basically, how much money are you making?
Millions, hundreds of millions. I don't quite know how to answer it in a purely economical way. There's another quote I read the other day which said, no one drives across town for average pizza, right? And I think there's again, going back to businesses of the past, where, if you had prime property in Sandton City, you were it. You had business. Treat them well, treat them badly, it makes no difference. However many thousands of people walk through this building every day, you're going to do business. As we move more and more online, we believe you can differentiate on service and experience, range and price. Those are kind of the 3 pillars one can play with. And I think it's very difficult to be highly competitive on all 3. So we look to sell, we've been trying hard to try and change this perception that internet should be cheaper. And we aim to sell all our products at recommended retail and at fair pricing. We don't, I think it's born of the days where you thought that e-commerce store was run out of like your mom's garage and everything was drop shipped, and so you didn't have to hold any stock or hype or employ any people. I think that's changing rapidly, and I think that one of the primary differentiators is going to be service. The Standard Bank gentleman who spoke earlier also mentioned how difficult it was previously, or how unlikely it was that people would switch banks. That's FNB's done a great job in the last year or 2, but that switching cost is becoming lower and lower and lower and easier and easier. So I think that if we didn't have the people in the places we have them in, we would not see 100% year-on-year growth in our business. And the feedback that we receive through our customer service channels, we use a thing called Nice Reply. Does anyone here know of Nice Reply? No one? Maybe it's a techie thing. At the bottom of our emails, and you can display it however you like, it's a very basic website called nicereply.com, and we just write a one-line which says, and we very seldom ask our customers for feedback. I guess we feel it is far more authentic if they actually engage with us or write to us in a proactive manner. So it's just a one line at the bottom of the email which says, have I been helpful today? ? If you'd like to share your thoughts, you're welcome to, something. And if you go through, you get a 0 to 10 star rating. You can rate, and then you can write a comment. And we would be, if I shared the volume of information we get from people who are just so grateful for the way they've been dealt with by a real human being, who has the ability to make judgments, has the freedom to make certain judgments on their case, we believe we'd be idiots to strangle that for the sake of cost. You're going to kill the golden goose.
Great, thanks.
Cool. There was another question. Doug.
Paul, quick question. Thanks for a great session. You're focusing on customer experience. Part of that experience is the delivery. I'm assuming you're outsourcing the delivery.
Yeah.
So my question really is what have you done to make sure that the people to whom you outsource that delivery kind of live your values?
Cool, good question. So we've hired and fired a good handful of courier partners over the years based on that delivery experience. There are a lot of courier partners who have what they claim to be very sprawling networks, but they all subcontracted to some guy with a bakkie, and the guy might sleep under his bakkie overnight because he's servicing some far rural area, and that delivery experience is pretty subpar. We've built a very strong relationship with Aramex, who used to be Burco, and I guess we've kind of grown side by side. You know, I think they've had our account since 2000 and maybe early 2009. And so we've grown side by side, and they've seen how we've grown. So in some ways, I think we've been very fortunate that we've had influence there. Awards are also an interesting one. I trust we all believe in taking awards with a massive pinch of salt. But they do help, particularly for Aramex, to say, you know, we do service delivery for South Africa's leading e-commerce business. And so I suppose we have a bit of leverage there to say, make sure that you guys are delivering to our standards. And so far, we've got a really positive relationship with them. There's an example I sometimes have used in a presentation where a customer posted to Facebook, and she said, I love Yuppiechef. I called them this afternoon because the delivery guy was extremely rude to my housekeeper, and an hour later, he drove back to my house to apologize. And what had actually happened was that the Aramex guy had arrived. He had rung the bell, didn't know whether it had gone through, rang it again. By the time the housekeeper picked up the phone, she was so angry that it had been ringing so many times. She screamed down the phone at him. He screamed down the phone at her. By the time she opened the gate and gave him the box, they were the greatest enemies. And the owner of the house saw the interaction, didn't quite know what had happened, but was highly upset by it, phoned us to say this is not acceptable. And we picked up the phone straight to Aramex and said, guys, we actually don't care what happened. It's totally unacceptable. You turn the guy around and you go there. We don't say that and say we're going to take our account away from you if you don't. But I guess on the broader scale, if those events happen on a regular basis, that's the case. So delivery is a challenge. Aramex are not the cheapest people to work with in the industry. And I think that's one of the other shortfalls, is that a lot of people look for the cheapest options that they can afford. Or not afford, the cheapest options they can find. And by doing so, they discount the importance of the service experience. So we found what seems to be a pretty good balance with Aramex. There's certain things we constantly put pressure on them for, which we would like to see improvements in. But generally, I like to think that our positive Yuppiechef experience is both with our customers and with our suppliers, and not just a front-facing thing. Cool.
Okay. Thank you. Just one question. Trend forecasters and futurists say that a lot of online companies will in the future establish physical stores like eBay and PayPal and Amazon.com. Would you ever consider that for?
It's a question that has been debated in our four walls for many years. We've actually made it a non-goal. Does anyone know here what a non-goal is? So a non-goal is one of those annoying conversations that constantly rears its head, and you as a team get all embroiled in it, and everyone takes their traditional position on the issue, and eventually we read about this thing called a non-goal. And a non-goal is saying, fine, we are not going to discuss physical stores for 1 year from today. We've been round and around the bush for 3 years on this issue, and we have no conclusion. The answer is no right now. We have no intentions to start physical stores. We believe that online is a massive opportunity and a place we want to encourage people towards. And so you put a mark in your diary 1 year from today, and you say in 1 year's time we're allowed to speak about stores again. So, no.
Thank you very much. Paul Galatis from Yuppiechef.